So today we're going to talk about the 10 drivers for email performance. The 10 areas of focus are understanding your deliverability, actively engaging with ISPs, setting up an ISP-friendly infrastructure, IP warming, building healthy data, managing email rendering, optimizing engagement through content, testing to optimize engagement, adopting an engagement strategy, and the importance of monitoring and managing your engagement and reputation. So the first step is understanding your deliverability, and you take a lot of information from the deliverability campaign response data that you already have. There are a lot of tools externally that you can use to monitor email deliverability, but just using your campaign performance data can help you show where you're bouncing, where your unknown user rates are highest, where your engagement is, your complaint rate data, so you could compare trends and see if any particular campaign might have caused more complaints. And then we're going to discuss on the next slide throttling, bulking, and blocking, and how they can be seen through combinations of response rates and numbers of spam bounces. A lot of users set up their own seed names with different ISPs, free ISPs that they can use to monitor their inbox placement, and that's a good start. But then eventually, you might want to migrate over to a third-party tool such as ReturnPath, who offers a certification program. They also offer a Return Path suite, which gives you a wide range of seed lists for different ISPs, and we'll show you the inbox placement and spam placement, as well as any missing emails, along with other metrics that show how well your campaigns might be performing. So the 4 key ways that problems will present themselves in your data are you might observe some throttling. Email is often held back by ISPs like AOL, Yahoo, and Hotmail. This is observed through monitoring your sends across the day, and if you see any sends where you've submitted a specific amount and the delivered amount is lower, and you don't see that amount in your spam bounces, soft bounces, or hard bounces, that's usually due to throttling, and typically checking again later in the day, a few hours later, you'll see that those emails should go through, but it's an intentional response by ISPs based on their user behavior. You might see bulking in your data. It's not readily available, but what you can do is you can compare similar-sized ISPs to one another, and if your response rate data is much lower for one ISP than the next 2 ISPs, then you might assume that there's blocking or bulking, and investigate that a little bit further. Blocking is easy to see. Emails that are blocked are returned to the sender. They'll usually fall under the spam bounce category, sometimes under the soft bounce category, and you can drill down and see exactly why you were blocked, and sometimes you can see what you can do to be removed from the block. And the fourth, it's not very likely, but some ISPs do black hole your email. Some people call it dropping them on the wire, where an email will arrive. If an ISP wants to reject it, they'll just drop it without sending any bounce back data. The good thing is that the major ISPs will all tell you how to succeed with their users. So Google provides a detailed guidance on compliance and how to manage spam emails. Hotmail, Yahoo, and AOL all provide Postmaster best practice and guideline information, and most of them provide fact pages and blog posts that are common. And also for ISPs that don't provide that kind of info, any of these ISPs, Hotmail, Yahoo, or AOL, and Gmail, their guides can be used and applied to almost any ISP to promote best sending practices. Also, we're here to help. We talk to ISPs all day long, every day. The benefit with us is that we can see all of our senders' behavior and compare them against each other, and that way we can determine if this is a widespread problem, perhaps with Yahoo or Gmail or Hotmail, or if this is specific to a sender's IP, and we can help in that way. And we know all the different nuances for each of the different ISPs, so we know how to approach them, and they all like to be approached differently. They all have different processes. We're familiar with them all, and we can help guide you through any of that when, or if it occurs. Just let us know if you see any kind of blocking, and we can help with that. Infrastructure is important for a good deliverability program. For any account on our EM platform or on our platform, authentication is provided. DKIM and SPF are there. It's already functional as part of the account. We set up all the feedback loops, which for supporting ISPs will report back to you as a complaint rate in the any complaints column. And we usually insist on domain customization using a branded domain name and your own IP, so that way the reputation of your sending is locked into yours and yours alone, rather than being on a shared pool. For new IPs and new accounts, and sometimes from new sending domains, IP warming is necessary. ISPs are wary of IPs that they haven't seen before, and if they see an IP that they haven't seen before suddenly start sending, they're going to treat it with a little bit of skepticism. They're going to monitor it, possibly put it in and out of the spam folder intentionally to see what their users will do, and perhaps throttle that email. Some advice for warming is to always start slowly. Assume that warming will take a 30-day process to complete, and incrementally and predictably increase your volume daily while throttling throughout the day to give a consistent volume of email to the ISP so that they can build your reputation. By the end of about 30 days, they should have a reputation built for you. Building healthy data. Bad email addresses won't reach a recipient regardless of how engaging your creative might be. ISPs treat mailers who send a large proportion of inactive email addresses suspiciously. In fact, if there are too many unknown email addresses in any given email stream, they'll treat it usually as abuse. And then for other ISPs like Yahoo and Gmail, who have more insight into how their users are using the email platform, they can see when a user is inactive, even if the email address is alive. A user might not use that email address for anything, and they can gauge that. So if they see email coming in on a daily basis, they know that that's not engaged, and that'll affect your reputation. So proactive management of the health of your data will help with this. On EM, it's automatically handled through our health suppression, at least for mailings that aren't new to our system. The health suppression can't help with new lists, but once a list has been sent, health suppression at its minimum level will usually kick out any or suppress any email that is hard bounced back or otherwise undeliverable. And if you listen to the feedback that you get on each and every deployment, and feedback is usually the complaints, the any complaints column, you can gauge how your users are accepting your email. So generally, for ISPs that report complaints, 0.1% is considered the start of trouble. 0.2% is considered blocking potential, and usually by the time you get to 0.3%, you'll start to witness some blocking. So it's always important to watch your complaint rates to make sure that that they're not getting too far past the 0.1% threshold. Some areas around data. We'll discuss smart data acquisition next, actively managing bounce rates, and removing or reactivating inactive recipients. So smart data acquisition is auditing your data collection methods. Is the sign-up process providing you with clean data? Usually, this means that you've taken some extra care to maybe ask for a double input on an email address or possibly a confirm email address, so that you could weed out any malformed addresses. Some senders have DBAs work out queries and scripts to clean up a list after it's been collected, to take any obvious misspellings of ISPs or any malformed addresses out before incorporating them. And then there's always list cleansing providers that can help with these efforts at the start of collecting data, and also on the back end. And then also consider if a recipient would expect to receive your communications after sign up. Oftentimes a user will sign up maybe to get a report or to get some kind of incentive, and then they'll be surprised to see emails coming in steadily after that they didn't expect to get, and that will drive up complaint rates, which drive down your reputation and increase the need for improving engagement. And also think ahead about the data that you need to collect for future communications. One thing comes to mind is the Canadian anti-spam legislation is very specific about how you can obtain an address, who you could send to, and when. And for example, you would want to collect, in that case, geographic data so that you could segment out your Canadian users, so that perhaps if the collection process was unknown for those users, you might suppress them on your sends if you're sending to Canada. And always try to confirm email addresses on registration, either, as I mentioned, through the double entry method or a welcome letter of some sort, some kind of list hygiene. Actively manage your bounce rates, remove emails that hard bounce. Like I said, our system will take care of this automatically for ongoing emails, but if you're bringing in a new list, or if you're bringing in a list from another provider, from another ESP, then you should request a suppression list for that list, so that you know that list doesn't contain unsubscribes, doesn't contain hard bounces, unknown users, and so on. And since the deliverability is dictated by the reputation, it's better to adhere today to receive the benefits of deliverability tomorrow. It's never a good idea to send your whole database just because you have it. It's always better to segment. Mailing to bad addresses will adversely affect your ability to reach good addresses. Bad addresses can be unknown users, which are typically hard bounces. We like to think of 1% and under to be a good quality. Anything over 3% would usually cause medium to long-term issues with ISPs, since they would look at that as abusive. Minimize your spam complaint rates by ISP. Typically, if you're seeing a high complaint rate, it can mean that your users aren't expecting to see either the type of email that you're sending, the frequency of email that you're sending, or just aren't enjoying the content. Maybe it's not clear to them who the sender is. It's always good to make it clear who the sender is and how they are associated to the recipient. Inactive users, it's important to remove inactive users and set a process for removal. It's okay to reactivate users or to try to reactivate users, as long as you set up a process that doesn't allow for overreaching to those users. So some senders do a single email campaign to their inactive users, asking them if they want to stay on the program with a yes or a no. and they will only keep the yeses and remove anything that did not respond. Other senders have a window, 4 to 6 months, where if a user hasn't responded, opened, or any other way engaged with an email after 4 to 6 months, they'll remove them from the list. And then other senders have an annual program where if someone hasn't responded or engaged within a year, they're automatically removed from the list as well. Manage your email rendering. Basically, you have 3 seconds for an email to be looked at and either accepted by a user or rejected. ISPs are looking for quick deletions, quick opens, quick closes, deletions without reading. So it's always important to get their attention as quickly as possible. It's always important to assume that every user that is receiving your email will look at it on a smartphone, a tablet, or some smaller device. If you use responsive design in your program, you'll always be safe because responsive design will scale from a phone to a desktop very easily. Our tool has a gallery view where you could see how your email will look in different email browsers. Optimize your engagement through content. Use the data that you have to make the message as relevant as possible for the recipient. This goes back to segmentation again. You want to also send to users who are opening your email and engaging with your email. You want to send to them more frequently and perhaps have several buckets where the frequency of your sends is dictated by the frequency of their opens and engagement. Testing is always important. As I say in marketing, test, test, test. If you test like a direct mail matrix, A to B testing, you should do fine. Always have a control group so that you can measure your changes against your tests, and don't use too many variables when you're testing. You always want to know which element specifically is causing you issues or increasing your performance. So some things that you can look at are creative, time of day for the send, subject lines, data segments, calls to action, short or long copy, HTML or text only, and my preference would be HTML and the text version. Those should all be tested against to see which perform better for you. So now that we have all of that, we need to adopt an email engagement strategy. Basically, just understand your customers. Don't try to don't think about broadcasting as much as maintaining a conversation, maintaining a dialogue. You want people to want your email when it comes in. You want people to look forward to it. You want them definitely to read it, to engage. You don't want them to delete it without reading. Just ad hoc clicking or anything that an ISP might see as an engagement problem. And then what I think is the most important is to continually monitor engagement levels. So every day the deliverability landscape is changing, and ISPs are becoming more and more granular in their filtering. They're listening to their users more. Users are dictating whether or not your email will go to spam or bulk based on how they're reacting to your email. So you want to monitor as often as possible. Use seeds when you can. Use all of the data available to you, and feed those results back into future email deployments. So in summary, if we understand the deliverability environment and how it affects the success of your email communications, you'll use the data that you have at your disposal through reporting to understand how your recipients are engaging or not engaging. Always test, use the feedback to fine-tune your performance, and think conversation and not simply broadcasting. You want to target and segment your emails. And simple steps can have a significant impact. You could have a poor sending reputation today, but taking simple steps moving forward, the ISPs will usually respond quickly to positive engagement. And that's the conclusion. If anyone has any questions, please send them to Sally.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Mike. A lot of content there, and as Mike mentioned, there's there's more comprehensive PowerPoint decks that we'll make sure we circulate the details of to you guys, so you have those as well. Mike, we have had some questions that have come through. If anyone wants to send any more through, the Q&A section's at the top left. But for now, there's one question. Mike, if we want to use a new list and we're not sure about the data quality, what would be your recommendation or suggestion?
We recommend for any new lists that you take a segment out, a random segment of 5 to 10%, and when you add them to your list, add them separately and send them with a throttle of several hours, and or at least a couple of hours, so that you can pause the throttle if you see a problem, and then look at the metrics that that identify list hygiene, like hard bounces. Typically hard bounces, if they exceed 3%, 2 to 3%, maybe look back at your list hygiene, see if you can get a suppression list. Maybe a suppression list wasn't supplied and can be supplied from your provider if you ask.
Cool, thank you.